Hi everyone, my name is Hilda Tellioğlu. I want to talk about co-creation and participation of citizens in urban planning today. I have three questions to mention in this talk. First of all, I want to know how to establish well-functioning citizen participation practices in urban planning. How can we use methodologies, tools, and technologies to support our process? Because it's about co-creation practices in cities, and the idea is to plan urban area of these people with them together. And I am also interested to find out what type of challenges we have in this co-creative urban planning practices. First of all, I want to give you some definitions to create the common ground of this talk. And then I want to show some examples of our living labs. We have in Aspan Mobile Lab several experiences and several situations and activities I want to show. And this was also integrated into two European projects. This one is the Smart Hubs and the other one is Street Forum. I will give you some examples by also showing you some tools, and especially this is about the design game. Design game as a tool where this type of co-creation can be supported. I hope that all this input can trigger further discussions here. First, to the definitions that I mentioned. I am, of course, very interested on participation and co-creation processes, and then we have to see how participation can be seen in this sense. If I see that the main literature is also in computer science, user-centered design is something which is important that we want to apply in processes, in design processes. But user-centered design is something that we are focusing on the users, and then we are considering the users, but the design process is carried out by the designers. But what we want to do actually is now to support the participation. How can we let people who are our users let participate in these processes? And it's also important that we are not designing for users, we are designing with users together. So how can we shift this, our attitude, and how can we shift the processes, methodologies, and the steps in this participation and co-creation processes? Of course, this we can also see that this changes the thinking, the feeling, and the working in different design settings. So it is not just only about how we do things, but it's also what the dynamics are if the participants are actively involved in the design processes. It changes the mindset and it changes the attitude about the people and also towards the people, that the designers have to think differently in these design processes. And also it is interesting to see that if you are not a designer and you are involved in participation process, you probably articulate and differently, and you are maybe creative, but in a different way. So we have to find out what type of means we can provide to see to support these processes in interdisciplinary teams. Seeing it in direction of user experience, which is an important part of the design processes, and then in computer science especially, we are focusing, of course, on the needs of the different stakeholders. So first of all, we have to define what type of stakeholders we have, who are the stakeholders for a certain design process, and what are the needs. And then understanding means more than just knowing that there are some requirements, which is normally the case in computer science environment. It is not so easy. The experiences need to be captured, how to capture the experiences of people. So you can ask them, but also you can let them do certain things and observe what they are doing. And you can also see what they normally do in their environment without being instructed by someone like us as designers. So user experiences need to be captured in different settings, like in the things, how they use things, in certain events, in certain situations, in certain circumstances, under certain circumstances, and in different places. So for that, it's of course interesting to see what they make, what they do, what they say in different levels. So, and consider actually also these different aspects, because what they say is not necessarily the same what they really do, and then not necessarily the same what they make with their knowledge and with their feelings, if they consider also their tacit knowledge and all the experiences they bring so far into their making. So that means we have to see user experience a little bit broader and then see it from that perspective. Of course, Einstein helps us in the participation definition of the participation with the letter. So there are several layers of participation and forms, especially also in urban planning. So, this is the level first and 1 and 2, like non-participation, then tokenism, and then citizen power. So I think the goal is, of course, to go to the level 8, having the citizen control, but sometimes it's very difficult to go there. It requires a lot of different structures, infrastructures, but also mechanisms and also the setting, the political, societal, economical setting to make so. And that's why we are also very keen on reaching a certain level of participation, even if it's not the highest one. So how can the participation be supported, for instance, by consultation or by informing, by making aware the people what is happening, and then that they can react to that and they might raise their voice. And then there are also different forms of participation, the nominal, instrumental, representative, and transformative. As we can imagine, that transformative one is the most interesting one also for our research projects, that we can really try to have a certain empowerment that the citizens have, and they can really participate in a very active way in order to design their environment. So the other ones are just forms which are, instrumentally or representatively, etc., managed and done. But the goal is again here to achieve the transformative one. In the software in software engineering or in computer science in general, we have participatory design as an approach where we know how to really help people to be involved in design processes. And the other one is shared understanding, which is necessary in order to be able to work together with citizens, with users, with end users who are not designers. There should be a shared understanding from both sides, from the designer side and from the user side. Otherwise, about the subject to discuss, but also about the methodologies, about the notions, about the goals, about the steps, etc. So it is not an easy thing, because it's always the same problem actually in the interdisciplinary project. So shared understanding is a really tough part of the whole participation process. And of course, we have in computer science literature the communities, the notion of communities of practice, which says actually that they are communities and they do certain things together. These are practice oriented, and they build a group of people who understand each other, and they do certain things in a certain way with their making, with their tacit knowledge and experiences. And then what are these communities of practices? And then how can these communities of practices be brought together to be cooperative and participatory in overarching problems like in urban planning. So still the unclear question is whether it's possible creatively, and whether everyone can be creative coming from somewhere as a user with no experiences in design processes and creativity, and how can everyone contribute so in these creative processes. It is still a question. It's as we should consider, users are not designers. So then the values come into play. So I think it's important to see what type of values we put into this co-creation processes. Is it the monetary value? Is it the user experience value? Or is it a social value? So monetary value explains itself, but user and experience value is important then to see, if users are in the center of the design process and in the goals and what you want to achieve in these processes, then of course you want to know what type of experiences you are going to support. And this is the most important thing. This is one of the important things that you are mentioning in your processes or you are aiming at. But more than that, the societal value, how can this actually change the different ways what happens in the society and the exchange among the people? So the values which actually also have sustainable impact. So we need supporting tools definitively, and these tools should be used because we don't have so much time to do all these co-creation processes. We have to communicate and establish it, facilitate it in a very fast and efficient way. So we need some supporting tools, and we need methods which help us to establish these co-creation processes. For instance, design thinking. In design thinking, there are several different methodologies that you can choose depending on the context and the problem that you are using. Coming to the tools, as I mentioned, I want to mention here only the design games, which are part of the design thinking methodologies. This is very interesting tool. Actually, it's co-creation tool. So design games help interactively to stress and to communicate the needs and opinions and ideas of single persons playing this design game. It's not about only gaming, it's about communicating, negotiating, and then showing also the problems among the people, and then coming into a situation that hopefully a compromise can be achieved. So this is very interesting. This is a game metaphor because people are doing something and by applying rules in certain turn takings, etc. But it doesn't mean that it's just game and gamification thing. It is also designing, so that you create data, you create input for the design process, and this is captured in a way that which is used afterwards in the design processes. So actually, it's very important that this exploratory way of finding out what can it be and what type of ideas can come from the people who are invited, are players of these design games, because they are interested in this subject like urban planning, and then it is a way of capturing this information and these concerns about the subject in design. So there are different types of exploratory design games. You explore actually the possibilities. So you can use these games to conceptualize the design. So you want to find out what type of areas you want to cover, what type of concepts you have to define for it. Or you won't let people exchange perspectives because you let them talk about what the opinions are and the viewpoints are and reasons for that are. Or you let them more negotiate and then do certain things in certain processes in order to find out what the negotiation could be in a certain situation. Or you create also additionally scenarios where in this scenario, certain activities with the roles and goals are predefined, and then the participants are taking these roles, trying to achieve the goals, and then go into the play and into the game in this way. And it's actually interesting. Exploratory design games are very important to organize participation. So this is a structure. There is a game. People sit around or are around, and they know the rules and the turn taking. And also you do something together, but you can contribute as a single game player. So I think this is a combination of both. Of course, it's the participation, the main issue. It's very central. And also, as I mentioned, there are rules and some elements, something that you can hold in your hand, and tangible things to think with, and then also steps, so questions or artifacts that you use. And then you try to bring this communication among the people through a design game. And then you need, of course, to create also some tension between the people, some boundary objects in order to somehow motivate them to come with problems, with certain solutions, ideas to the solutions, and let them be more creative in the sense, so to support the creativity. And then this way, you also find out about the people, about their experiences, let them tell their stories, and they normally explain why they think in a certain way. And in this sense, one can hear a lot about their life and work context and the place around them. These are very important hints for a designer if you are going to plan something or in this area. So that summarizing, design games are participatory. They are active and direct. They are based on the active and direct participation of the players. And also there is a collective and expanding ideas, possibility and opportunities that emerge when people play the game. So, and then also sometimes by using the roles, you can also let people on purpose change their perspectives and put themselves into a situation where actually they are as person not very convinced of, but still they try to understand the other way of thinking to the same project, so the same problem. So I think this is also a very powerful part of design games. I wanted to say that in the project Smart Hubs, this European project we finished this month. We used these tools, especially these design games, and created also further to establish the participation and co-creation with the citizens in different cities. So we have done that in 4 different cities. And of course, the base idea is coming from Aspern Mobil Lab, which is a living lab established in Aspern-Seestadt in Austria, financed by the ministry and also from the TU Wien. So I think we are very keen on that. We can really run a lot of projects there by involving the citizens and also bringing the university to the community, and then really showing what we are achieving there, and then also let them participate in different subjects, what they are interested in. What we created in that case regarding the design game, a package with several elements and several predefined with the guideline, with different cards, with different icons, with different roles and goals. This is a blank analog design game, we called, and we provided this game to different living labs in the project in Smart Hubs, and we said to them that prepare the design game. As we prepared the design game packages, we sent them to them, and then we run a workshop with the living labs in order to show the games, because the idea was to let them create their design game themselves. So we were not providing them the design game. We gave them all the material and all the information and the guideline how to create this design game. And then they designed that. And then, of course, we consulted them. We worked with them together. These are our colleagues in the project. And we helped them to improve the game, to put some gamification elements, etc. And then also we had several evaluation meetings to see whether the game is really working or what type of factors should be optimized. And then we let them play the games. And starting with the analog blank design game, they could see that they have to think about the problem, about the stakeholders, and the ways of letting people be participatory and creative in the sense. And then we also transformed this blank analog design game into an augmented reality design game, where we had several activities in an augmented way on mobile devices to give them different options additionally, which made the games more pleasant to play, and then also the documentation of the data which are captured in the design game could be better established through the technologies that we have. And then the goal was also to have the real world design game supported by augmented reality, meaning the mobile device in hand. You can walk through a city and then you play the game while being at the place where actually you are planning co-creatively with the others, with the game players. So I think these are the 3 steps. These were the 3 steps, and we run that in Smart Hubs by creating the lab profiles, understanding the goals, because all profiles, there were 4 labs, they had different goals, and they had different people who could work with, and then we provided them all the material. Their context was different, their challenges were different, and activities different. And we tried to find out how to support them. So the results were completely different. So one living lab, which was in Austria, had 3 steps to create the game. The first of all, they really went to, as the Miro board, make a plan, because these were also planners. They are very good in planning, and they had several design rounds, and then they tried out how can they create their design game for their purposes. And then they built teams, they sophisticated in the second step, and in the third step, they created also tangible artifacts in order to be able to play on a table, and then bringing people together and having a community playing this design game. With the same material, with the same package, the Brussels Living Lab had this result. So they had a card game with a certain list of activities and different cards and different roles, and letting people sitting around and talking about the different issues they were questioning. So that means this could be, you see the difference. There is a big difference between the approach, the process, even if the design game guideline was saying the same. And they chose this way of doing it, but they used the same material. You cannot see here some material, but maybe also some figures you can see, but the rest was created. For instance, all these cards were inspired, of course, by the material that we provided to them. And the Munich group created something different. So they were very sophisticated in creating different elements and different personas and scenarios. And the place was defined. They wanted to plan this certain place, and they wanted to have a certain solution to the mobility issues in this area. And then they, as you see, they used a lot of the ideas with element ideas, card ideas, role ideas, and board idea. And then they tried to create this game and played also several times with several people. So these were some examples. I don't want to, we have several deliverables. If you want to read them in Smart Hub's website, all the deliverables and all the design games created are linked to Smart Hub's project. You can find it on the website. And to summarize, as you see here in the image, we have this augmented reality part, and this is the board game, the analog part. So as you see, there is a plan of a city where the planning can be done in certain areas. And then you can also have a layer of the augmented part or augmented functionality to the game. You can map on it and then put additional information about the elements, what they are and how they are, how it would look like if you position as something in this space, and how it looks like if you put some trees there, etc. So this is the planning process that you could do in the design game. While doing that, you explored actually playfully different ideas that people were bringing to the game. So their experiences, and it was also fun, of course, because they had the rules. This was a game, and sometimes they did something and others changed that. And so there were the negotiations, because they had to articulate their perspectives explicitly, and then also understood what others were saying from their roles, from their goals, what has created also shared understanding. So actually all this participation, co-creation features which are needed in a process could be established or facilitated through this design game in our project, at least for urban planning. So they are actually, in the sense, very interesting because they are, on the one hand, very tangible, and on the other hand, because people want to play something with tangible things, on the other hand, it could be enhanced with augmentation. So it is the combination. So through that, do you bring the people who come together, talk to each other, and this has in the process a societal value. And then you can do cooperatively, envision process together for the future, actually. So for the future in that space, how you plan your urban environment. So coming back to my questions, so this was the tool. My questions were threefold. So first one, how can we establish the participation of citizens in such practices? So one way of doing it is the living labs. The living labs are really very good platforms and possibilities and infrastructures where you can really bring people, different type of people, to the same place and let them exchange. Which is, of course, not so easy in one sense, because you have to reach out to the citizens and motivate them to be part of it. And but meeting each other changes the whole perspective of the problems that you have. So I think it's very important to communicate that actually with the people in order to see how they bring their ideas, and then for that they have to trust. So they have to share their opinions without having a feeling of some negative impact of it afterwards. And it's also important that it doesn't need to be only tangible as a living lab. So a space where people come in, this is very important, but it's not only the way, it's also the virtual access is important, because not everyone can participate in real places. They are going to work, and then you cannot have so long open hours in the lab. So there should be a combination of tangible and virtual access to the lab. So certain information, certain data needs to be provided virtually to everyone who can access the lab. And on the other hand, it's not so easy to reach out to the citizens, and you cannot give up on that, because it's very difficult to do so. You have to offer different formats, and then you have to find out what type of citizens you are addressing it. If there are families with children, you have to offer something for them. If they are elderly, you have to offer something else. The timing, the place, the content depends on the type of citizens you are reaching out. So I think it's very important to consider that. Otherwise, you will not get any contact with the citizens, because they are voluntarily helping you to design further something which is good for them, but still you have to bring them into that situation that they see it, and you have to do it as a designer at the time which is comfortable and doable for them. The language is very important. So we have to find out a language with our citizen participants, that citizens who are participating in the processes, giving them the feeling of being heard, but also accepted, and with respectful way of dealing with each other. So I think it's very important that this trust between the designers, academic life, and the normal life in a city, in a certain place, with different socioeconomic, with the people with different socioeconomic backgrounds. So I think the language, the common language, is very important in that sense. And of course, we use some methodologies, tools, and technologies which can be definitively the participatory approaches and co-creation methods help. I showed you how design games can be used, and as an example, because I'm working currently on that. But there are also provocative requisites, or cultural props, or design workshops. So they are in design thinking methods kit. Then you have different ways of dealing with different methodologies in a certain degree based on the requirements that you have and on the circumstances you are establishing it. And of course, the technology-focused hands-on workshops are very important, because let people do something with hands-on workshops, then they see something is coming out of it. They can see the result, and they can also use it. They can take it with them. We have, for instance, sensor boxes in Aspern Mobile Lab, and give people the possibility to build it and then also take it with them. So it's not so easy, because you have to find the right people who are interested and willing to spend time in creating such things. But this makes a difference, actually. We have also, for the activation in our living lab in Aspern, so idea competition. So just bringing students or academia with citizens to create new ideas to solve real problems that citizens have. or having the open labs, the living labs, several lectures, seminars, exhibitions, discussion events, but also having fun celebrations, getting together. So in order to create trust and exchange, informal exchange with the people. So all these things should be done in a certain way, in a certain period of time, that the communities can be built and maintained and kept active. So there are still challenges, and we know that, and everyone who are working within living labs with citizens know that it's not so easy to have the right time to build the trust and the credibility, to engage the citizens and to maintain the communities that you create. And how the goals are stated, communicated, envisioned, and kept alive, the language you choose, and what type of strategies and activities you put into the process by thinking about sustainability of it. So it's not just something comes out, something is a hype, and then you forget it. This should be also involving people for a longer period of time. And also, of course, to see what comes out of these interactions, what type of achievements you have, and how to present and visualize and share these achievements with the citizens, with all the participants, with, of course, the politicians, decision makers, other stakeholders, and still improve the whole process. So I think this co-creative urban planning is a big deal, because it often opens up the everything. The one thing is the problem space is opened up, the stakeholder space is opened. So you don't know how the stakeholders will change depending on the problems they are coming as the next challenge, and then also the possibilities and the circumstances might change. So this is very dynamic process in urban planning, and co-creation brings more dynamic aspects into it. But it's definitely a challenging area, but it's also very interesting, because it is really fun to have the citizens being involved in several participation processes and co-creation processes. You can see in the face of the people that they are feeling well because they are heard, and their ideas and problems and solutions, what they think, are captured, and they were taken seriously in these processes. I think this is very interesting and very motivating, at least for me as a researcher. Thank you.